Oh, hey, welcome back to my channel. I may look a little bit different today because I'm wearing makeup. A little bit at least. I'm wearing new lipstick, concealer, and mascara. And they're all from Glam of Sweden. And no, this is not a sponsor video. Although they would like to sponsor me, that would be awesome. Um, but no, today is not really a video about makeup. I'm just putting it out there that I look different than normal. And if I look better with makeup, say that in the comments. If I look better au natural, say that in the comments too. If you don't give a shit, just say that too, you know? Um, I do plan on making a video eventually of a makeover. I just need to get more makeup first. For some odd reason, I keep losing makeup. And the funny part is, the kids have nothing to do with it. The kids are not the ones who messes up my makeup or anything. I somehow misplace it. And I bought a bunch of makeup two, three times, and it just disappears on me. I think I got makeup gremlins in my house. Um, so I think I might do a video where I do make a makeover of how I looked during competition days and just a regular makeover video. Because I do look extremely different wearing makeup compared to when I go without makeup. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why does Lindsay not wear makeup so often? Well, first of all, when I wear makeup most of the time, I feel like I'm being smothered. I have really sensitive skin, and it just feels like my skin can't breathe when there's makeup on it. Except right now. This is probably the lightest I ever felt makeup on my face. Um, so if you're someone who has really sensitive skin and you feel like you're always being smothered when you wear makeup, I recommend Glam of Sweden if you're in Sweden. Um, and again, like I said, this is not a sponsored video. And although, like I said, if they want to sponsor me, I'm available. um, but yeah, I'll go into that eventually in another video about Glam of Sweden as well as other stuff. But um, I think what I'm going to do today is talk about my first visit in Sweden back in December of 2003. It's a good time to talk about it because this is the first time I ever visited Sweden. I think I already said that. Oh well. And it kind of lays the path of me actually moving here eventually. So the first time I came to Sweden was in 2003 in December. I went here to celebrate my first Christmas with my significant other. It was not my first Christmas in Sweden. It was also my first Christmas celebrating it with my significant other. And where do I start? It wasn't a bad trip. Don't get me wrong. It was not a bad trip. But when I first came here, I did not know a lick of Swedish. Cross I thought. I knew a few phrases, but put it this way, I was very lost when people talk in Swedish around me. I felt very left out too when people conversated in Swedish, but I think that's typical regardless where you go and you're not from that country or area that is fluent in a certain language. Um, and nowadays, I can understand the majority of what I hear compared to back then. But I'm not fluent enough to know every single thing that's said, and I'm still not good enough at communicating orally. But it's better because when I go out, I try to speak in Swedish as much as I can. Um, Especially when I go to the store, or go to an espresso house or something. I always try to order in Swedish or talk in Swedish, which makes me more confident when using the language and stuff. Because the only way you get better at something is if you practice. And the more my kids learn Swedish too, the more I will definitely learn more Swedish as well because I'll be learning alongside them. Because there are times where my son asks me something about, oh, what's this in Swedish? And I'm like, I don't know. Ask your father. Because, I'm the expert in the English language. Although my significant other would disagree with me there because he gets on me about my grammar. And yes, my significant other is fluent in English too. I'm envious of him and my son. I mean, because my son's on the verge of becoming bilingual too. He can already go between the two languages flawlessly. You know, he'd be able to talk to his grandmother in Swedish and then go to me in English on a dime. And I'm so envious of that. I really am. Um, so when I first came here, the house that I'm in now, my significant other's grandfather was living here at the time. He didn't know any English, so I couldn't communicate with him, and he couldn't communicate with me. So you can imagine how awkward it was to sit at the table and just stare at each other and not know what to say because you didn't know what to say to each other. And not only didn't you not know what to say to each other, you wouldn't be able to understand each other either. And it was the same way with his grandmother too. His mormor. That's Swedish for mother's mother, and but his grandfather that lived here was his farfar, which is his father's father. Um, so there was that, and uh, the other interesting thing was the food tasted really different to me back then. Um, because in the States, and most of our foods in the States, especially if you processed foods, um, they're loaded with preservatives. And no, this is not a video to bash preservatives and promote organic stuff. I'm just giving you guys my personal experience with how food tasted in Sweden back then compared to now. And um, because in Sweden they don't use preservatives in their food. And so when I first started coming here, the food tasted really weird to me. Um, I can't put a finger on it. On how it tastes different. Like I don't want to say it tastes fresher, but it definitely tasted different. And I'm having trouble explaining nowadays how different it was because it's been 15 years. Now, what I can say is since I've been living in Sweden for 12 years now, and there are occasions where a year will go by before I can go back to the States to see my family and my friends, like now. By the time I go back to the States next year, it'll be like over a year since I last seen my family and been to the States. And whenever I go back to the States now and eat food there, not everything, but some things, like especially processed food like Pop Tarts and stuff, it has a chemical taste to it that wasn't there when I lived in the States originally. And that's because there's preservatives in their food where there's not in Sweden. And yeah, so I mean, basically, when I first came to Sweden, I lost a lot of weight because I didn't want to eat much. And um, I wasn't near any fast food places because back then I wasn't a big fan of McDonald's, and in a way, I'm still not. Um, but I gotta say, the food in Sweden with McDonald's tastes a lot fresher than it does in the States. I will say that right now. Because most of the time in fast food restaurants in Sweden, they make your food as soon as you order it. They don't make food, put it in a warmer, and then wait for you to order it. They wait for you to order it, and then they make the food. It may take a little bit more time to wait for your food to get ready, but it's so worth it. Trust me. Um, but even now, I don't eat too much McDonald's and stuff. I don't really eat much fast food in general. It's been a month since I had fast food, and I went like 2 years without eating French fries. But I don't want to get into that. That's a different topic. But anyway, food tastes different here than it did in the States when I first got here, and it's still that case now when I go back to the States. Um, Another thing is how much snow they get here during the wintertime. Now, it's not always the same kind of winter. Like, there's been a few times where we've had a mild winter where it didn't snow so much. But the downside of that is the snow was replaced by rain and gloominess. And one of the things I'm still trying to adapt here, that was an issue for me even back then, was the long hours of darkness they have here during wintertime. December 21st is the longest, darkest day of the year in Sweden. Now, actually, throughout the world and you know, places like Anchorage and all this other stuff. Now, the thing is, where I live in Sweden is we don't get the 24 hours of darkness. There's like 6 hours of light. That is if it's not cloudy and raining. Yeah, if it's cloudy and raining, you don't get any sunlight that day. And that you get that with mild winters, and that messes with your head more than when it snows. Um, so the weather and how long it's dark here kind of combine and can be very hard on you, especially if you're an immigrant or you're not used to those kind of winters. If you're even visiting, because I know I had trouble when I visited here, and but yeah, that was the long hours of darkness was hard even back then, like it is now. It gets dark here at 3 o'clock, and it stays dark until 9 a.m. Yeah. But in the summertime, it's the opposite. It's light during those times, and we only get like 6 hours of darkness. But I didn't have my first summer until the summer of 2004. But right now, let's stick with December of 2003 for my first Christmas here. There was the snow and the freezing temperatures. Now, here's the thing. I'm from the state of Maryland. We have freezing temperatures at times. We have snow at times. And sometimes that snow is blizzards. But we don't get blizzards that often. And the fun part for me is, if you remember a few years ago how there was all that snow in Maryland and they declared a state emergency and you were not allowed to go on the road because it was a state emergency. Okay, remember that amount of snow for a quick second. Now, that amount of snow is how often it snows here in Sweden on almost a day, or not a daily basis, but here's the thing. It can snow a lot, but it doesn't melt. Because the freezing temperatures prevent it from melting. So then you end up in 3 to 4 months, if you have a moderate to severe winter, of seeing nothing but snow for the next 3 to 4 months. You don't even see the ground during that time. And people in Sweden still go to school and still work despite all that snow. The same kind of snow that puts Maryland in a state of emergency is the same kind of snow that Swedes still go to school and work in. That I'm still blown away from, even to this day. Because while people think it's a myth that Marylanders freak out when they see snowflakes, it's not a myth. At least, okay, Western Marylanders may be okay with it because they're very used to snowfall. People in Central Maryland, not so much. That's where I'm from. I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. And we don't get as much snow as they do in Western Maryland. We don't get as much snow as they do in Sweden. So when we see snowflakes, we start to freak out. All right? Unless you're from a state that gets a lot of snow, then you don't freak out. Like, my mom is from Erie, Pennsylvania. And trust me, they're getting a lot more snow these days. They're even getting more snow than us here in Sweden. And I don't know if they shut down. Probably not, because life would, not cease to desist, but, life would literally grind to a halt if they didn't work on getting rid of their snow on the roads just so they can go to school and work. At least, unless I'm wrong about that, in which case someone from Erie can correct me on this. But basically, people in Sweden have to continue to move on despite all the snow, while people like me get scared crapless. So there's that. And in Sweden, they celebrate Christmas on December 24th, well, which is Christmas Eve for us in the States. And it's not that weird for me because my step-great-grandfather was raised in Austria from the time he was 2 until he was 12. So when he moved back to the States and my step-grandmother married my grandfather, they adapted the tradition of celebrating Christmas on Christmas Eve too. So I got 2 Christmases growing up. I got Christmas on the 24th and on the 25th, which is the same kind of thing I'm going to give to my kids too. And actually on the 24th, it was no different than how we celebrated it in the States. Like, we had like a buffet, which they call a Yule board in Swedish, which is basically a Christmas table. And it's like a potluck. You have all kinds of food. You have herring or sill. You have uh, Yule cheese, which I don't touch. You have lutefisk, which I don't touch. And luckily, my significant other's family doesn't touch it either. You get peppercorn cookies, which is basically ginger cookies. You get, oh, what the hell are they called? St. Lucia buns. Um, if you remember American Girl, there was an American Girl named Kirsten Lars, and she was a Swede that immigrated to the States during the 1840s. I learned a lot about Sweden through her, and I learned about peppercorn cookies, and I learned about the St. Lucia buns and stuff. And so there's that, and there's something called glug, which is basically mulled wine, and you add raisins and blanched almonds to it. And it could be alcoholic, and it can also be non-alcoholic. Um, you have beet salad, you have purple cabbage, you have ham, meatballs, Prince Corvs, which are these little hot dogs. You have Christmas ham. You have all kinds of stuff. You also have something called, oh, what the hell is it called? Jensen's something or other. It's like potatoes that look like matchsticks that are with fish. Um, oh yeah, you also have regular salmon that's not raw, but it's smoked. Yeah. So you have all that for, oh yeah, and deviled eggs with the shrimp on top of it. So you have all that for a Yule board. And then after you eat, you open gifts eventually and stuff. So it's no different than how I celebrate Christmas Eve and stuff. Now, what the thing is, I'm not used to seeing businesses being open on Christmas Day. So everything was open on Christmas Day, the first Christmas I celebrated here. So let's see if there's anything else that was different or that I need to relay. No, not really. So I hope you guys like this. I hope you guys like learning about something about how Christmas is in Sweden and all this other stuff. Oh, I forgot how the Santa works. In Sweden, their Santa is not like ours. Their Santa is called Tomta. Let's see. Get him. Here we go. This is Tomta. He looks like a little gnome, and the way it is that if you were good, he treats your house and your animals well in the stable. If you were not good, he doesn't treat your house well, and he doesn't treat your barn well. He doesn't treat the animals in the barn well. So that's how their Santa works. Although they have something called a Yule Santa, a Yule Tomta too, which is almost like our Santa. But their tradition of Santa is nothing like ours. It's not like he comes down the chimney and gives you presents and stuff. So it's a little bit different from our Santa. So when I talk to my kids about Santa, I'm like, well, yeah, he's coming tonight, but he's also coming tonight. I mean, he's not only coming on the 24th, but he's also coming on the 25th too. Or, no, I said that wrong. He's coming on the 23rd to Farmore's house to deliver gifts, and he's also coming on the 24th to deliver gifts here because they celebrate Christmas on both days in our family. So, okay, I think that's it. I hope you like this. Hit like if you like this. Please subscribe. I would be delighted. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.